This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by The Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I'll be your host. I'm a writer here at Fire Rescue One. I'm a fire officer, and I'm damn happy to be here with you with probably some of the most energetic and smart guests, and today is no exception. But before we dig into one of our distinguished guests, we have with us the commander. I call her the commander. She's the editor-in-chief of Fire Rescue One, Janelle Fosquet. Janelle, welcome and hello.
Hello. How are you today, Aaron?
I'm good. You cannot help but be energetic when you talk to Chief Mary Cameli, who is she's here injured. And it does not faze her one bit. Her energy is, contagious, and that coming from somebody who's highly energetic like myself. So we're very fortunate to have the fire chief of Mesa, Arizona Fire Medical Department, Chief Mary Cameli here. Chief, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much. It's really an honor. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, and I say you're playing injured. I mean, you just coming off some surgery, and you're like, hey, sorry. But I can't wear my uniform because can't raise your arm, but does not stop you. And, 42 years in the fire service, nothing has stopped you. I mean, you've been with Mesa for 42 years. You're the president of CPSE board. You're a chair on the IFSTA board. You have a laundry list of accomplishments and contributions to the fire service. So thank you for those. And thank you for your energy. I'm excited to dive into it, but my first question is 42 years, and we're going to talk a lot about the innovations that you brought to Mesa, but before we dig into that, what's one of the common themes that you've seen that has stayed true to the fire service and to you throughout your 42-year career?
Great question, Aaron. That is a great question. I have to say the ability to serve. Since day one, I think if we kept that mission and that passion from day one in the academy to 42 years later, to me, that is the constant. That's why we're here. That's what the fire service is all about. And sticking to that commitment is what makes the fire department so successful. And I personally think this is the best job in the world. I mean, I think this is the best career ever. And I moved out to Arizona to teach school, ended up in the fire service, and I would never look back. And I truly think that service and all of us focusing on that is what keeps the fire department relevant in every single community.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what drives your innovation then, correct? Like if you think
absolutely
we need to be better at service and this is a tool, like innovation can help you do that, correct?
Absolutely. Everything we do is how to make our fire department more relevant for our communities. And working together to get that done in the Phoenix area here in Mesa, we do automatic aid with all the neighboring agencies. So whichever unit's the closest to the call gets it. It might be us going into a neighboring city, but the community doesn't care. If they need help, they don't care which fire truck shows up, they want help. And so this whole region is about the same mantra of service and getting there as quick as you can to serve the community. And every program we do is how do we make that better? Every apparatus and what we do on the apparatus is to make our firefighters safer, and how do we respond better to the community?
Well, and you have 12 brothers and sisters. You're raised
do.
in the south side of Chicago, heavily embedded within your family. Apparently can we plug the deli a little bit?
Sure, go ahead, please.
Yeah. But you worked in that deli. Your family has a deli there for over 80 years, and you worked in that deli. How did that prepare you for your fire career?
That's a fair question. Being a cashier at our Italian grocery store in Chicago Heights, it's called D&D Foods. We learned about customer service from day one. That was our livelihood, working in the store. And the key was we didn't get paid. My dad's like, you have to work it. This is your family obligation. So we had to work in the store. Looking back, you go, that made sense, right? So all of us had to work in the store. And I think that really taught us, number one, working with each other. We were there every day working together. When you got home from school, you went to the store, but really about customer service.
Yeah. How do you
everything we did, treat the customer right.
Well, and is that how you break through the egos sometimes? Because right, like I'm gonna go right to, when you're talking about other agencies and other people and other, like sometimes there's egos there, and I watched one of your interviews where you just said, look, kindness can go a long way still.
Yes, 100%. I believe that. It's like treating people right and the relationships you build. I think that is the real key to our success. It's not about what we get individually or what we get as a department. It's like the betterment of the fire service. We are, when people talk about firefighters, it's all of us represent each other, right? I mean, they don't really care about the name on the shirt. They say you're a firefighter, and that's what they think about. And so we know, and what I always tell our recruits too, is you are representing everybody. You're not just representing yourself. And so when we're here in the region, we talk about that all the time. It's like, it's a regional approach. We're all in this together. And I think if we keep that in the back of our minds, it helps us to really keep relationships going and really showing grace and kindness to each other as we go along. Sure, there's going to be disagreements, but how you handle that and how you get through it matters. Because, you might win the battle, but lose the war, and it's not worth it. Life's too short. I learned a long time ago just how quickly and 42 years have gone by. Just showing a little bit of kindness and grace to each other as we go through our daily routines makes all the difference.
That's just people 101, right?
That really is. It really is. And, when we even talk about diversity and inclusion, I would take out all of those words and just say, be kind to each other. And that covers everything. It's just back to the simple basics in life. And that just covers everything. And it's so simple. It's not rocket science. It's just doing that, being kind to one another and really showing grace to one another. If someone's having a rough day, just kind of show a little grace. I think that goes a long way.
Well, you call it the regional approach. I was going to ask if this was like the Arizona way, because that's so much of what Chief Brunacini was known for. The be nice mantra. What is it about Arizona that makes everyone so friendly?
I appreciate you saying that. Our leaders before us really set the stage for that. When they did this whole regional approach, when they decided, hey, if the community needs help and my truck is closer to the border and they're going to get there first, why wouldn't we do that? So I want to thank our forefathers for really starting that. And then the current fire chiefs that are here today in the Valley that continue it. And really, it's important. All the fire chiefs, we always get together. We have meetings, monthly meetings, and East Valley chiefs get together. We get together with all the regional chiefs, every quarter. And all of us feel the same way about this. Is like, it's a regional approach, and working together is what really makes the difference. We have big calls, and we'll have, 4 different cities here helping us on big calls. And we do regional training together because we know we're going to run calls together. So I'm grateful for the fire chiefs that are here in the Valley, because all of us feel how important and what a value it is to have automatic aid and a regional approach to this. Even mutual aid, some that aren't in the automatic aid system, still mutual aid with some of these communities. So, because we know when someone calls 911, they just want someone to come and help. And so I think all of us have that same feeling that working together makes it better for everybody.
Well, we talked a lot about innovation, so let's dig in a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, Mesa, you guys, what you're doing there, it's known as a very forward-thinking department, and I think obviously if anybody's listening, they know why, based on your energy and your mindset.
Yeah.
And when we were doing some research, and believe it or not, Janelle, I do research on this. Like we've done 140 plus, but I love digging into different things. So you have an all electric apparatus,
Yep.
and some people say that's good and bad, but it's about a different mindset. You're also testing some GPS based traffic preemptive signaling, social services division at your department, and I think there's really good things that the program's doing with Struggle Well and with cancer. So where do you want to start? Let's dig in.
Okay, let's start. You brought the electric fire truck up first. I'll bring that up. We did buy this last year. We were very grateful that our council and our city management supported this, but they wanted to see it was a new innovation, and we want to try it. We want to see if this is, because I think you hit the nail on the head. It's much quieter. It runs much smoother. A little scary that it runs faster. I wanted to see if there was some kind of governor on it, so they couldn't really go that fast, but it was. They say it rides much smoother. But like with anything new, there's, getting parts and things like that, there was some concern as we were going through it because it's so new. But we knew, being one of the first with this, we're going to run into that. But we were willing to do that. But when it is in operation, the cruise, it works great as we get parts for it. So the cruise, where it's at right now, it's at station 21. And that was a brand new station. We put it at a brand new station. So when we had the station built, we had it built with all the proper power outlets and
Okay.
everything there. So it was a perfect fit. Right when it came in, that station was built and it was ready to go. So we're still working with that and still kind of making it operational. It still has to go through a hot summer in Arizona to see how it does in the heat. So once we see that, that'll be the real test of the electric vehicle. But I'm glad we started with it, because you're not going to, if we don't continue trying new things, we can't get better and better. And sometimes they work perfectly and sometimes you have to work through it still. But we don't give up. When we face a challenge, we work through it and get past it and go, figure it out. And so that's what we're doing. This truck is serving its purpose right now. We'll see how it does in the hot summer, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But and another thing we're getting is we're ordering a tiller truck. We have it on order. We haven't had a tiller truck since the late 80s, early 90s. And the folks on the ladder thought it's time to get a tiller based on the apartment buildings that are going up here.
Yeah.
So
That's not electric though.
It's not electric.
No, that's a regular good old tiller.
A regular good old tiller that does have water though. So that's
Okay.
So we're
So
looking
we'll
forward
have
to
a
that
pump
too.
on it too.
It
right?
will have a pump. Yep.
Yeah, but looking at, you mentioned that there's high rises. Yeah, some of them are sprinkler, but you still need to be able to reach them. You still need to be able to get to them. Looking at, you looked at obviously the traffic patterns. I'm curious about the GPS based system. How is that different from the Opticon system that you're looking at?
So what we're working on with transportation is they're going to have it automatically through GPS from our vehicle to the traffic lights. It'll automatically preempt the light to turn green as you're going down the street. So they're trying to get it on all these stuff, but so you don't have to have Opticom to do it. It'll all be through GPS. This is something we've been working on with our transportation division. So we're very excited when this is up and running. So they're doing some tests on it right now, but we're excited that if it makes it safer for everybody involved, that as the fire trucks are heading west, all the lights in their direction are going to be turning green as they approach them.
Yeah.
And
you
then
can
knowing
also,
where you're turning left.
well, and I think based on that and GIS, like I think you can also probably set a kind of a range for miles per hour too, right? Control speeds a little bit too. So if we're going too fast, which hold on everybody, just relax. I'm not saying not go fast, but like if we're going too fast, not having due regard, right? That can trigger, hey, you're going to have to slow down for this light then in that case, right? So I think there's some safety precautions for us in there that to me, that's very exciting. Because I know like lights obviously are one of the most, I think that for me as an officer, they're sometimes one of the most stressful, things going to a scene is you're coming up, you're like, is this light going to change? Are people going to get out of my way? Do they know? Right. Well, most of the time we know they're not gonna. And so what's the next step in that? And where are you in that phase of development?
So they're testing it right now, and then they're going to put it on some of our lights here in downtown and some of the busier intersections so we can kind of see how it works. And then once we get it and we test it, then we'll start adding it to more and more of our stoplights in the city. And then we even have, if it's GPS operated, then even some of the lights that are out of the city in neighboring cities, then they're going to work on that too. So when we go out of the city, we're able to utilize GPS to preempt these lights.
And so that's so that's your transportation division.
Yep.
Within the city of Mesa also. So, innovation is kind of inbred within that organization from what the fire department, but also the city is supporting you on that, right?
100%. And the city's very good at that. They're always looking at ways of doing things better too. And so we have a great transportation division that's excited to do this. They want to help because they know it's going to help emergencies too. So we're very fortunate for that.
Any additional information? Because I know people are kind of listening to this going, ooh, we need to look into that. How was that brought to your attention?
Actually, they knew we had Opticom and that, the preempting system, and they brought it forward saying, we're working on these traffic lights and we want to try this. And we're like, we are 100% all in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually brought it to us and said, we said, absolutely, we would love this. So as soon as we heard about it, we're like, that would be great, because every light didn't have a preempt, the GPS on it, but a lot of them did in our community. But if we could do GPS and have it that way, that would be so much smoother on every emergency call that we have throughout the city in our 238 square miles. That would be a very nice feature to have. So when they're going on a code 3 response, they're not hindered by the lights.
Yeah. Well, that's a proactive approach to traffic.
Yep.
And, you also have a proactive approach to health and wellness through cancer and also struggle well. So I think, a lot of people hopefully perk your ears up when you hear just some of the things that Mesa's doing. And here's a chance to just showcase your mindset on this and the programs that you've kind of been involved with through Mesa on health and wellness. So let's dig into that.
All right. Nothing's more important than the people that do the job here. If we're not healthy, both mentally and physically, we cannot perform our very best. So taking care of our employees and making sure they have the tools that they need to stay healthy. And I'm not talking about just while they're here, but even in retirement, you want your folks to be whole. And so we've done so much with cancer risk reduction. All of our trucks now are clean cab trucks. We don't have any of our gear inside the truck anymore. They're all in the outside compartments. We do a whole decon policy before, after every fire, they wash down their gear right there. We all have 2 sets of turnouts. We have, and this is just for cancer reduction. We do full body screenings. We started it about 3 or 4 years ago, and now we just got more approval to continue that. So based on your age and all that, you do it every 3 years, every 1 year, based on where you are. So everyone will go through that. It'll be a continuous process. So because you might not have cancer today, but in 2 years it might show up, and we want to catch it early. And we have caught many cancers that have been caught early enough where they've taken care of it, and our firefighters are doing just fine based on these screenings. So we're going to continue with that as well. We just started, we have 3 recharge rooms in our stations, at 3 stations right now. And the recharge room, it has a cold plunge, it has a sauna, and it also has red light therapy. And this is to help with both physical and mental health. Our first one, we have 3 of them going in. 1 is all done. This is going to help on many fronts. I don't know if you've ever done a cold plunge.
Oh yeah, I'm from Wisconsin. Every day is a cold plunge from pretty soon here.
You could do it all year. That's true. But the benefits, when that first came forward, they presented that to senior staff years ago. And I said, that is going to help folks. Let's do it. So there's cold plunges at the stations. But now with the recharge rooms, that's going to be another addition to the health and wellness for our firefighters. I love all that. And something might work for you and not work for me, and vice versa. So we want to have options. Struggle Well, we've been doing Struggle Well now for about a year. We've had over 100 people go through Struggle Well. And for those that are not familiar with Struggle Well, it's a 5-day program where it's really just changing of a mindset. Actually, I'm going next week. I'm going through Struggle Well next week because I want to experience it myself. We're sending people and they talk about it, and we go listen to their stories at their graduation, but I need to experience it as well. But it's just a mindset about gratitude and being grateful for what you have and how you change your mindset. And so many people, and I kid you not, so many that have gone through have talked about how it has truly helped them and really helped them to focus differently on things that are going on in their life. And if that's going to help folks in our departments, I'm all in. I'm all in for them to go if they want to go. And you can't really force somebody, although we thought, is it going to be better to force them? But we don't want to force them to go because it might not be as fun for them. But the ones that have gone that really didn't want to go, because if they were on light duty and that was a perfect time for them to go, to the person, they were grateful they did. They said that it really helped them change their mindset and really help them even in their home life, not just at work and what they do with at work, but really, they realized that they were short with their family and all these things because they were looking at things in a whole different mindset, and Struggle will just kind of help reset all of that. I'm looking forward to going. I've heard a lot about it, going to several graduations from Struggle Well, but they have a little graduation where the class talks to you after the 5 days. And so I've been to many of those, but so that is something that we're going to continue doing until every member goes through it.
Yeah. So when you came on, we were talking, I'm doing some presenting at Science to Stations, and some of the research that I've done on resilience, a lot of it points back to gratitude. And I've had my own personal journey with gratitude and just some of the calls that have been on the last year. And I think that is one of the most substantial things that we can do for our health and wellness. But I believe also that a lot of us, it's not as simple as just saying I'm grateful for. There's a lot more to it. Yeah. And I know that programs like Struggle Well actually, I guess I wouldn't say attack that, but they address that. And actually I'm gearing up to be presenting on that topic a lot more throughout this next year because of just personally, I've kind of learned that way. So it's great that that you're introducing that to your firefighters, because I think it's you're right, it's a mind shift.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with just what we're dealing with sometimes, with just the kind of sometimes the dark side of humanity, you need to figure out a way to bring you out of that. You know, and you had mentioned some of the other things that you're doing with health and wellness. One thing, look, I know our listeners are, you know, clean cab always gets this, oh, it's clean cab, we're going to be behind the eight ball, we need to have our gear on, you know, tough and, you know, right? Like, how was that change? Was there some resistance to changing that culture by saying, hey, your SCBAs are going to be, and your gear is going to be outside your truck? How did you make that change?
Yeah, that was not easy, because we leave it up to the company officer. The difference here is because we have 2 sets of turnouts. So every set of turnouts that's on your truck should be the clean pair, should be the clean set.
Yes.
So some of them choose to put that clean set in the cab, but most of them choose to put, but it's clean. So it's, you know, and it makes a difference, because as we were transitioning, when I would do ride-alongs with the crew, just to kind of see, I'd go sit in a cab that had the gear in the cab with the SCBA in the cab too. Night and day difference from a clean cab. You sit in a clean cab and you don't smell all the smoke. You're so used to it. I would never have smelled the smoke if I didn't sit into a clean cab truck to see that, what it smelled like without the smoke versus with this. You just get so used to it.
Yeah.
So it was a mindset. And now that we've been doing it so long, it's probably been 7 or 8 years. So people are now, anybody we hire from here on, it's just natural to get your gear out of the compartments.
Yeah. So SCBA is in the compartment. It's not in the cab. You have to get out of the vehicle.
Yes.
And put it on.
Yep. Right. You do have to do that. And so it was a mindset.
Yeah.
A mind shift for that.
But I also think too, like, one of the things that I noticed is that putting my SCBA on in, you know, right now we're not clean cab 100%. And so putting my SCBA on in the, you know, still in the chair, like, a lot of times you come up and everything's all jacked up, right? Like, it's in and out of your jacket's jacked up.
Right.
You know, and I know, like, you know, the other side of that is, well, you're going to waste 15 to 30 seconds that you could be, you know, looking and actually making a rescue. And look, we can look at it so many different ways, right? Like, but I do believe, like, just like that, you can become efficient in that manner, just like you did with the SCBA in the rig, right? Like,
Exactly. And that's all the new folks know, right? Now, the ones that we hire now, we have 2 classes a year, so maybe 40 to 50 a year are coming on. That's all they know, is to get it out of the cab and do it that way. You know, the ones that have been on a long time, they had to do that whole transition. And they've been doing it now for a while. But I think now that more and more people do it, then it's just become second nature again.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision we make as a company is about you, our customer. We wouldn't be where we are today without you, and we don't take that lightly. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck, and shop our family of brands, including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Now let's get back to the show.
I'm really trying to hit, like, I know what firefighters are out there going, well, yeah, they don't ever have an art department because, you know, we feel like we got to get right in there. You like my voice, but my voice changes for some reason when I do that. Sorry, you know, but
we face that.
I'm glad you just said sometimes you have to, and you mentioned, like, with Struggle Well, we don't want to force our firefighters to go do this, but look, I know what we think about, like, and I know, you know, my mindset sometimes isn't the best when I talk to chiefs, or, you know, I push back because that's what we do. And I'm not proud of that sometimes, but then on the other end, we always go, dang, chief, thank you, man. I got a lot out of that. Or, you know, we went to clean cab, and you know what, my back is saved. My knees are saved because I'm not carrying that 30-pound pack in and out and twisting all the time. And, you know, I think, right, you got to stay your open mindset on that.
Right. And I think to that point is, I think that more and more see the value and the benefit, like the the risk reduction. So you're smelling that smoke. And when we have we've already had brothers and sisters die of cancer, when we are doing these little things, I think it puts a little more oomph to them, saying, well, it makes sense, because now I don't have to breathe, because as much stuff is on your tank that you don't realize, you know, all the smell and the soot and everything is just kind of embedded in that. I think they see the benefits, and I want to give my membership credit, because I think for the cancer piece, they are really embracing that and understanding why we're doing the things that we're doing in terms of cancer risk reduction. And they're all in on that. I mean, it was hard in the beginning because you're right. I grew up with my tank behind me and my gear right behind me and everything was right there. You jump in your boots, so you don't put your seatbelt on. People are guilty of not even wearing their seatbelt for that reason because you got to get there right. So this makes it safer all the way around. And I think even with the younger generation coming in, because they are a little more safety conscious about that and they hear about the stories that we've been through, that also helps. Then those that are more senior want to set a good example for these folks too. And that puts a little pressure in that way too. Something else that we have done that wasn't popular in the beginning, 12-hour units. We looked at all of our data and saw that we had way more calls during the day than at night. So we weren't going to take any units out of service because we had very busy units. But the city was willing to support us for some 12-hour units. They were not popular in the very beginning. Nobody bid for the 12-hour units. So the least senior people got on the 12-hour units in the very beginning. But as time went on, when you talk about health and wellness, sleep for some people is critical. And now the people bid for these trucks and they love the trucks. They said it, their life, they said they can extend their career another 3 years because sleeping at night really got them. So they feel like they can do this job now because they were so some of them said they were so sleep deprived, they didn't realize it, but being on these 12-hour, bidding for these 12-hour units changed their outlook on this career for them. And in fact, the last struggle ball I went to, a few of them were on a 12-hour unit. And that's some of the stuff they talked about. They said that helped me so much to get my sleep pattern back and all this stuff. So even if people did it for a year to kind of reset, it was a game changer, but it was not popular. In the very beginning, it was not popular. I'm not going to lie. We're like, oh my gosh, it's only going to be the least senior going to be on these trucks forever. And then all of a sudden people are like, I want to sleep. And now
I don't want to. Yeah.
But they're first out on every med call. They can do fires too, but at a 12-hour unit, they're first out. If they're at a station with an engine, they're first out on every single med call. So they go on more calls in that 12 hours, but they know it. And then they go home at night and get to sleep.
All comes back to sleep, Sam.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And sometimes we have to be forced into that. You know, I also think, Chief, you know how the table, right? You know, I love the kitchen table and we solve a lot of issues, almost all issues there over time with a couple cups of coffee. And, you know, and I think we're all kind of usually dealing between 70 and 80% optimized. Right. So misery loves company. And then when we start talking about 4 shifts or 12-hour shifts, I don't want it. And one of the most significant things where the families of departments that I talked to that went to the 4 shift or like yours, where you went to the 12, talking to the families when you said, well, they want to go to a 24, they want to get off that, or, you know, they may want to, you know, we don't like the 4 shift at first because we don't like anything at first. The families have stood up and said, no. Stay right where you're doing, because I get my significant other back again, right? Like, did you get that too with some of the, you know, some of the resistance, and then you got the family coming in saying thank you?
Yes. We have 2 12-hour units. The rest are 24. We do a 3-4 schedule. But yes, to those people, I have had spouses tell me this is so nice to have him home every day or her home every day. So I have gotten that too. But we do the 3-4 schedule. And I have to say, at some point, 4896 came up as an option. But after doing my own research on 4896, as busy as we were, I was not comfortable for safety reasons for day 2. And I just couldn't in my heart feel good about that and approve that schedule for that reason. It's for the membership safety. And I know many people want it because then you come in for 48 hours and you get 4 days off. But being a busy department like we are, I was not going to risk anybody's safety to do that. So we stayed on the 3-4, and then we have the couple of 12-hour units now too.
Yeah. The popular one now is 1 on, 72 off.
Right.
Yeah, the 4 shift that way.
Yes.
But the hard part is whether you know, some departments are doing a 52-hour schedule, some are doing 48. And that schedule, the 1 on, 3 off, is a 42-hour a week schedule. And and unfortunately, the fire service, just over the years, it became acceptable to work 50 hours a week or 48 hours a week. You know, so I think it's a long transition back into that. You know, but you and your staff, you think, hey, we need to find a solution to this, and that 12-hour is a great solution. and you're finding that that's working tremendously, just like Clean Cab is reducing your cancer risk, the Struggle Well program. How did that then parlay? And you started then looking more at social services and community risk reduction. I think department risk reduction is what you started with, and now you're turning your innovation to community risk reduction.
Right.
And I'm gonna go out and say a good friend of mine, Nate Rice, and I came up with DRR plus CRR equals 100% optimized department. So department risk reduction plus community risk reduction equals the optimum fire service, right?
100%.
So how is the community risk reduction side kind of taken that innovative mindset of yours also?
Yeah. So when we look at the data of our calls, so the data of our calls shows we had more calls in the day. Our data of our calls also said there's certain call patterns that can we do something different with them. And one of them in particular was falls. We had like 10% of our 70,000 calls were falls. And we're like, what can we do with these fall calls? I mean, number one, you're elderly and you break a hip, that could be fatal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the wellness of our community, so what we did was we started looking at data in certain elderly communities and saw how many fall calls we had in this area. And then we started meeting with these folks, our social services team. We do what's called health safety inspections in the home. So when a crew goes on this and they say, this is house, when we go in the house, they see rugs and they see all these things that weren't an issue in their 60s, but they're an issue in their 80s. They advise our social services team, and then they say, hey, someone from our team's going to give you a call. They call them. They say, you know what? They need pull bars. They tell them about what's the hazard now. That rug that you had, the shag rug in the living room, is probably a hazard now. And so they work on that with the family, but also we go and put in pull bars now. And that has reduced. So what we did was we did 90 days. We went into this community, look at the data, saw so many calls that were falls in particular, install pull bars, and the number of calls have reduced dramatically. When they did these home safety inspections, removing these hazards, these rugs, these things like that, even some calls on these high utilizers that we have going, then our team lets our social services know, hey, go to this address. This looks like this is, we've been here multiple times. We've been here more than twice. They go there and maybe this person needs to go to assisted living or something like that. And then they communicate with the family saying, your parent here is not doing well on their own. They keep falling, they keep doing this. They connect them with that too and get them where they need to be. That was to reduce call volume and more importantly, to keep our community safe. We talk about what we can do in our community to make it safer. When they do that, if you could prevent somebody from falling, you could probably extend their life. You can get them in the right place where they need to be if they can't live by themselves anymore, but that's a hard transition. But the social service team is so good at that. They get them connected with the right resources, they get them where they need to be and working with the family. Sometimes they have family out of state, whatever it is, they do the communication with that. They follow up with them. So they have a backlog of calls and a backlog of orders for pull bars. And we have volunteers that come in and do that. We train them. And so we have several we couldn't do it without our volunteers. Well, volunteers teams that help with the home safety inspection, volunteers that help with some of the pull bars. Our social service teams, they are social service workers. They're the ones that go in there and communicate with the family if they need that. But it's a team effort. We have volunteers, we have our social service team, all doing this together to kind of keep the community safe and also reduce the number of these call volume for the 911 side too. It's a win-win.
Where are you finding the volunteers to help with this?
In the community, we have a connector program. We probably have 60 folks that we call connectors. They're the ones that go on the scene. And Chief Dennis Compton, I think Chief Dennis Compton, he started the connector program years ago. And they're the connection between the emergency and what's next. So they get with Red Cross on a fire and they work with the family, getting them connected with Red Cross. They'll do the different things when there's a stern of motors needs something. They'll help with all the ancillary things that are going on, non-emergent. And they're wonderful. And then we have our HSIs, the ones that do the little home safety inspections. So they're all from the community. And then folks that have had some kind of construction background. Not anybody can install pull bars. That's a special, you have to be able to know what you're doing there, because you don't want to do something that the thing comes right out of the wall, the bar. So you have to have a niche for that. So we have folks that have been doing that for a long time, going there and installing pull bars too, to help, take care of that side of it too.
And how are you measuring success with these programs? Like, you sound like a very data-driven department. We'll talk about Nearest and several other elements there. But how do you see that these programs are working in the community?
You know, we look at the data like how many times we went at these addresses prior to us coming to the home, and how many times we've been there since then. And we look at some of these have been, you know, we would go there 9 times in 6 months, and then 1 time after that. So we're looking at the data to see on these specific incidents, these specific addresses, how the call is being reduced in that specific area or in that assisted living, you know, community. How many times are we going there now that we've reduced the number of falls? So we look at data like we look 6 months before and 6 months after to see the difference. And that's how we can tell that it's making a difference. And when you have hundreds and hundreds of calls, if you can reduce it by 200 in the year, you know, that's a positive thing, you know.
Yeah, two
So-
calls per unit a day is huge, you know,
Yeah,
and
it is.
especially
It
if
is.
they're at night and someone's, you know, because we always find too, right? When do they fall? They're going to the bathroom late at night, trip on the carpet, or they
Right.
get like the light, they didn't see anything because their lights out or something, right? Like there's so many different ways that we find that we can reduce those falls, and it reduce falls, reduce calls, right?
Yeah, right.
Makes sense here, you know.
Yep, for sure.
And you know, Janelle mentioned Nearest, and I know that you were one of the first agencies to adapt Nearest. Talk a little bit about that transition. How's it going?
Right. So we are in the beta phase. We were the second phase of NARIS, and we've been working on that with Image Trend right now. The go live date or the onboarding is supposed to be January sometime. So our team has been working very, very hard to make that happen. We're working with Image Trend. There's still some glitches with Image on that side of the reporting. So they're working through that. In fact, I have a meeting with them tomorrow so we can see where they are and how that's coming. But our team has been doing a phenomenal job, really being dedicated to that. So hopefully by January, they'll be ready to onboard and to get that done. But we got to work on the other side. And NARIS, the NARIS team has been awesome with Craig, and everybody's been awesome. We had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago to see how we can get our reporting company to do what we need to do. So they're working with Image Trend right now to see how that's going to work. But we're doing our part. Our team is doing their part to make this happen. And we're excited. I'm excited for how the data is going to come out of NARIS and what we can do with that data once it's available to all of us.
Yeah. How are you accumulating or acquiring your data right now? Like, do you have a particular department that's working on that? A couple individuals? How do you see what's the most successful route? So if some department is listening to like, hey, we're struggling with figuring out how to best figure out our data and use, like, where would you recommend them start and go?
We have a planning and research division, and they track all of our data. So, you know, right now we have Image Trend, and we have our EPCR is Image Trend as well. So we track it that way through that. But we have a planning and research division that does all of that. So when we say, hey, how many fall calls are we running? They go right in there and they plug it in the computer to see, you know, what your fall calls are. So basically just through Image Trend and through our planning and research team, they're the ones that gather our data.
Okay. And that's within the department itself?
Within
not
our,
with the
within
city.
and the city also has a data team, and they also back us up. So if it gets to be where they want to do projections and outcome, when then we go to them, because they have a little more robust resources in the city. So we also go to the city planning team, and then they can do some of the projections for us too. Like they're the ones that told us based on projection of call volume, where our next fire stations were supposed to go. So the last 2 stations that we just got approved on a bond, they told us the locations, the best locations to put those 2 stations based on the data and the projected call volume in those areas. And so they've all been planned in place already based on that data.
Makes your job a little easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Right?
And
Yeah.
if you look at the numbers, you see it makes sense. They go, look at, this is where the call volume, this is where the building, the growth is right now, and this is where the next station should go. And then so they've done a pretty good job with that.
Speaking of your job, you've done so much for Mesa. You've done so much for the fire service, you know, bringing it all back together. I know you're passionate about a lot of different things. You know, where would you like to see Mesa go, and what's kind of your pipe dream with, you know, within your own organization? And then let's parlay that into the fire service.
Okay. For Mesa, I'd like them I think it'll be great just to continue on expanding with social services. I'd like us to see as in the future, you know, what we can do with telemedicine as we continue to advance and the call volume continues to rise, because it is going to rise because the population continues to grow in Mesa. To see where telemedicine is going to take us. I think all of these these new technologies that are coming forward, how we can utilize that in the fire service. So really expand social services, continue telemedicine, and really to continue with all the programs that we are doing in terms of peer support, all of that we're doing. I think we need to continue that and making sure that we keep available to our members about this cancer awareness and our jobs, and really, and there's so many new things coming, right? With these EV fires and these these battery storage systems and all of that are coming our way, that we continue staying well trained in these areas, because we don't want our firefighters to get hurt. So to stay on top of all this new technology that's coming and the hazards that our firefighters are faced with every day based on these technologies, that we get the proper training and they get the proper training needed so they continue to be safe. And that's, to me, that's paramount.
Right. For at home. And I think that's paramount for everybody who's listening. Yes. It doesn't regardless of volunteer, on-call paid, right? Yep. Career, for fire service wide, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that, all of that same, I think that same attitude and that same passion for fire service across the country is to make sure that we have the information needed to keep our firefighters safe. It's a new day with firefighting out there today, the things that we're exposed to, the things that we don't know what people store in their house anymore. And every call we go on, there's potential for danger. And to always, your head's always on a swivel because you don't know what you're going to get every day. But if we keep our firefighters well trained and knowledge, keep them up to date on what's happening, what's out there, what can burn, what are the hazards of those things burning, because I think firefighter safety has to stay on the forefront, and it's only going to happen with us keeping up on what's going on in your community, what kind of facilities you have there, what people are storing, things like that. We want to make sure our firefighters stay safe.
Well, we've mentioned a lot on this program. It's about, self-improvement constantly, because the fire service is evolving constantly. And there's something that we didn't touch on. I want to just finally bring everything back to this point of upstream thought process, upstream management. I hear it in your voice. I hear it in how you approach things. For our listeners, kind of how do they get that mindset? What is it? And how do they continue to develop that kind of mindset?
I think that, in this job, we don't ever do anything alone. It takes other people to make things happen. And I'm not the smartest one here. I know people have smarter ideas. And I think utilizing each other's strengths as you go through your career in management, I have a great management team. Everybody brings a strength to the table. It's never just one person. If you can rely on each other and utilize each other's strengths, you can have a powerful machine moving forward, to get us to the next level. It's not one person. It's never one person. It's a village. And if you, and really empowering your captains and your battalion chiefs to know that, hey, your ideas matter, bring them forward, whatever you have, because we want to hear what you have to say, because that's how we get better. We don't do it alone. We build it together, we grow it together, and we work through it together.
Yeah. Awesome. Way to bring it home. You set me up for basically the essence of what we're about on the program, and Janelle has heard it almost 150 times. And Chief, you're kind of the epitome of what we're trying to do here, is just give people some motivation, some thoughts, and inspire that thought. And you had mentioned too, empower each other to think out of the box, empower each other to find better solutions, and empower each other to be safer. Thanks so much for your insights, your passion. Yeah. I'll look forward to our next conversation. I'll try not to hug you too much, because I know your shoulder's still in a little bit.
I have a good arm.
You got a good arm. And anytime you got other projects you want to talk to us about, you're always welcome on the program. And, I love the passion and what you're saying, the upstream kind of mindset and empowering others, because that's what we're about here. So thanks for being here, Chief.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm blessed with a great team, and thank you for what you're doing. If it's going to make the fire service better, I applaud you. So thanks you so much.
Thanks. It's not on, it's up to us to give them the information, but it's up to you, the listener, to get out there, learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for being here, Chief. Thanks for listening, everybody.